in waterways ahead of the rainy season. Also, silent crisis. The surge of abuse of Red 225 leaves young person in desperate cycle of addiction. The Narcotics Control Commission is worried. And we continue on a special day like this, Eid-ul-Fitr, being marked across the country. We'll touch base with my colleagues who are dotted all around the areas where the celebration is currently ongoing, and much later we wrap up on our Ghana Month series with a focus on abandoned forts and libraries. Stay tuned in for the details. Eid Mubarak once again to our Muslim brothers and sisters. Let's get into the details. Where President John Mahama says government has authorized relevant state agencies to demolish structures built along waterways. This declaration comes at a time the rains have already started, exposing Ghana's drainage system once again. The president has been speaking on the matter at the Eid celebration here in Accra.
This reckless disregard for planning regulations and environmental safety is a major contributor to the devastating floods that continue to plague our communities. I'm aware of instances where private businesses colluding with some chiefs are turning water retention areas, Ramsaya sites, into built-up zones. Let me be clear, this must stop. Those structures will be pulled down. We will not allow a few selfish individuals to endanger the lives and livelihoods of countless others. The law will be enforced, and those who flout it will face the consequences. My brothers and sisters, building a better Ghana requires collective effort and shared responsibility. Let me also reiterate that the celebration of Eid-ul-Fitr is one that should be done with peace and dignity. Unfortunately, in the past, reckless riding, reckless driving has led to unfortunate loss of life. And I want to say, no one must die in the celebration of Eid. No one must die at the end of the celebration of the holy month of Ramadan. And so I'm going to caution our young people who drive their cars recklessly and ride their motorbikes recklessly. I've asked the police to look out for you. And if you ride recklessly or drive recklessly, we'll arrest you. My brothers and sisters, let us work together, guided by the principles of faith, justice, and compassion, to create a brighter future for ourselves and future generations. May Allah bless our nation and guide us on the path of peace and prosperity. And on this day, I want to take the opportunity once again to call on our brothers and sisters in Boko to give peace a chance. On this holy occasion, where we celebrate the feast of Eid-ul-Fitr after the holy month of Ramadan, my brothers and sisters in Boko, let us give peace.
And that's President Mahama at the Independence Square a short while ago. Safo Abuahi is my colleague who's been observing that day along with the thousands of Muslims who trooped there for the Eid prayers. Let's connect with her right now and get a sense of what the day has been like thus far. Safwa, talk to us. We've heard from the president, but who else has been speaking during these special prayers offered today?
Absolutely, Mawena. Very good afternoon to all our viewers. And today has not been just a very simple event, but it has been a very momentous one, and one that holds a lot of religious antecedents and reflection, as well as thanksgiving to Almighty Allah for holding these Muslim communities and Muslim brothers and sisters through the 30-day fast. And so they were reflecting upon what the lessons that they were taking throughout the 30 days. Speaking to the spokesperson for the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Arimiya Shaibu, he mentioned profoundly about the fact that throughout the 30 days, they learnt about how to hold temptations and eschew all sort of immoralities. And as a result of that, this is a day of reflection, a day of thanksgiving to God for taking them through the whole 30 days. And today is a momentous occasion for them to celebrate the great dignity and as well as the celebration. And so they also prayed for the country, Mother Ghana, talked even about Black Stars, that the Lord will not disappoint them so that he sees them through the World Cup. And also the president graced the occasion with what we played earlier on with that SOT. Aside that, he spoke about the president, he spoke about the reckless riding and driving of motorcyclists across the country that does not show the true meaning of the celebration. And the same thing as the spokesperson for the Chief Imam also reiterated. And he also mentioned about the floods. He also spoke about or sent some solidarity messages to the people of Boko. So Mawena, these are some of the things that happened. Amongst these prominent people that were present at the National Prayer, the Independence Square, there were others. I beg your pardon, there were others like the members of the diplomatic corps. There were some ministers, Ahmed Ibrahim, who is the Minister for Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. We also had the Honorable Rashid Pelpo, who is also the Minister for Employment and Labour. And amongst that, we had the NDC parliamentary candidate for the Okaikwe Central in the person of the NDC parliamentary candidates, and amongst others, we had the chairman for the Damango chiefs and the chairman for the Zongo chiefs as well, who was present and graced the occasion. We had about thousands, so I'll say hundreds of Muslims who were present at the occasion, and they graced it beautifully in prayers and solidarity to God and then the festivity. That will be your Mawina.
Right then, thank you very much, Safwa, with those details. That's my colleague, Safwa Boahi, at the Independence Square. We're going across the country with respect to what the celebration has been like. Akwesi Ado is our man in the Central Region. He as well observed prayers there for us. Let's touch base with him quickly. Akwesi, talk to us about how it was like in Kaswa and its environs, where the special prayers as well were offered after the 30-day fast.
Okay, so this is the central business district of Kaswa, and this place is originally known as Odukongwe, and this is a Muslim-dominated community. And so today, the Muslim prayers were heard as a path just goes by. And according to the Chief Imam for Kaswa, Sheikh Misbah, he is very worried that most youth in the area are now engaging in the abuse of drugs and violence. And so he was very emphatic that the Islamic religion is really against acts of violence and engaging in substance abuse. And so he admonishes the youth to shun from these practices. And then also he is very emphatic that parents bear responsibility for the actions of their children. And that both Allah and the Prophet Muhammad are not happy with any parents who allow their children to get involved in violence and irresponsible use of drugs. And bear in mind that on the day of accountability, they shall surely account for those acts of their children. And so he is admonishing them to keep watch over their children and fight them against this act. He is worried that Kaswa is gaining notoriety in the act of violence and wants residents of Kaswa to take note, particularly our Muslim brothers, and then avoid engaging in violence.
Thank you for the end of this Ramadan. We thank God Almighty Allah for this great day. Some of us didn't see this day. So if God permit us to see this day today, thank God. That's the very most happiest day for us. Especially we Muslims. Lord, we thank God for those who are able to make it today and those who are not without. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Abdul Nasser from Kasodong.
Well, first of all, I would say Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. We really thank Allah for bringing us this far. You know, not everyone gets to, you know, experience this month of Ramadan, let alone fast and then get to celebrate it with everyone. You know, all I would say is it's all part of the blessing, you know. So well, we are looking forward to, you know, a more, you know, memorable day, and then we hope for the, you know, the best, so that God willing, the next Ramadan we all will be here, and then we'll get to, you know, fast and then celebrate another Eid day.
Some Muslims in the central region areas of Kaswa. From there, let's take you to the Ashanti region, where religious leaders used the occasion to urge young Muslims to prioritize their health, future, and faith. Ibrahim Abubakar is joining us from Kumasi to shed a bit more light about how the celebration and the occasion became a platform for social change. Ibrahim, many thanks for joining us. Eid Mubarak to you. Talk to us about how all of this played out, today's occasion being used as one for societal change. Ibrahim, I'm asking you if you could run us through the details as to how the celebration has gone in the Ashanti region.
Well, Mauna, very joyous moment in almost all the Muslim community, and as you can see from the background, they are just from the Eid prayers, and they are just enjoying themselves with sumptuous meal. Now, usually what we do is that the day is structured in a way that no one is left behind. So we just have to extend the helping hand to the needy. We do know that yesterday some Muslims observed their Eid prayers. Today, another batch is also observing, and the larger population is doing it today. But basically, it has been centered on three messages about religious tolerance, peace, and also the growing concern of drug abuse. In fact, that has been the topical issue because we all know about opioid, red, and other stuff. So now, the leadership of the Muslim cleric community have been advising the youth to abstain themselves from drugs since they've been able to successfully abstain themselves for the past 30 days without doing it. It means they can continue. And this is about their future. This is about the society. And for that matter, they are hoping that they will be able to abstain themselves from all these drug-related activities. Let's listen to some of the youth that have been engaging on this pertaining issue or development.
I'll first of all say Barka da Sallah for all the Islamic community, and may Allah give us what we wish for. Well, for now, what I can say is to advise my youth to stay away from drugs, these new drugs addicted that introduce themselves into our community. Somebody like Tramor, Red, and stuff. We can see what is happening in other communities. But thank God we fought for 30 days, and I'm gonna advise our youth to stay away from the drugs so that they can be good leaders in future.
You know, there is a trending trend right now regarding drugs, the opioid and the red kind of drugs that a lot of the youth are actually doing now. I want to encourage them to abstain because our religion, first of all, encourages us to abstain from some of these things. And it's also important to recognize not just the health impacts, some of these drugs have on us, but it basically destroys our future and the future of our community too as well. So I'm calling on the youth and reminding myself too as well within this particular context that we need to, exhibit certain character that denotes the Islamic.
Ibrahim, talk to us about the reception of these messages by the young persons, the caution to stay away from drugs and its abuse. How welcome and worthy of the message?
Well, I would say widely accepted. You know, obviously, we have one or two people who do not want to agree because they would want to continue with their illicit activities. But it's something that has been of concern to the Muslim leadership, and it's very important for most of the youth that we are touching on this sensitive issue, because if we fold our arms and allow this to thrive in our communities, it means we are destroying the youth or the future of the community and the future of the country as a whole. So very, very loud about that. We see people mounting the days of people who are able to speak to a lot of people, going this trend rather than the usual thing. But Mauna, you know, usually in this month, like we said, for the 30 days, you find a lot of people abstaining from these social vices. Then after the 30 days, people going back. So this time around, they want those messages to go deep in the minds of the youth that it's not just all about 30 days of fasting that means you, because these are things that the religion itself prohibits. And for that matter, we should all try and abstain ourselves from it. But aside those things, largely there were national prayers for the government so that God will be able to direct them to be able to do what Ghanaians are expecting from them. So government also had its fair share of the prayers, then also the entire Ghanaians, so that we will all be able to observe religious tolerance and also make sure that we get the necessary development that we desire. For mind you, this year, there has been concern from some of the youth. They are just looking at their leadership to also expect more from politicians with regards to education, scholarship, with regards to infrastructure development in Zango communities, rather than the usual presenting the leaders with rice, oil, and the likes. They want more to be done to enhance the livelihood of the people who are living within the Muslim-dominated areas and make sure that the youth are empowered.
Ibrahim, thank you very much for those details, and Eid Mubarak to you as well. That's my colleague Ibrahim Abubakar in the Ashanti region. From there, we take you to the Volta region, where Faisal Abdul Idrisu is on standby for us as well. Faisal, we've done a quick trip around some parts of the country. Talk us through how the celebration has panned out in the Volta region as well.
Well, Eid prayers were held earlier this morning across the entire region. Yesterday, a few sets of the Muslim community held the Eid prayers, and then today, the larger group had theirs. I was at the Nuria Park in Ho, where I attended and observed the Eid prayers myself. It's a day of celebration, a day of reinforcing our religious beliefs and commitment to the Almighty Allah. It's a day to remind ourselves of our responsibility as Muslims, and also to ensure that we keep a stronger relationship with our neighbors, both Muslims and non-Muslims. And that's exactly what the Volta Regional Chief Imam Alhaji Hamidu Anas Alpha had been speaking about at the Eid grounds earlier this morning. He talked about the fact that the new government, John Dramani Mohammed's government, the new one who is on the mission to reset the country. And so he was calling for patience on the part of the Ghanaians, and particularly the Muslim community, for government, and asking that they support the government to deliver on its mandate. He also talked about the very worrying trend of drug addiction among young people across the country, where he indicates that the fact remains that those who are engaged in drug addiction have a future to beg for. That is to say that their future is bleak, and the continuous use of drugs is going to destroy their future. So he's calling on the youth, largely, particularly from the Muslim community, not to lose sight of the key issues that come with Ramadan, shying away from social vices among brothers, and that today Ramadan is ending. It does not mean that they should go back to such vices, particularly the issue of drug addiction. Let's listen to the Volta Regional Chief Imam Alpha
Faisal, we'll hear from him a lot later, but thank you very much for those details. That's my colleague Faisal Abdul-Idrisu as well, providing details for us. There's a lot of mention of drug abuse and Wunim Red. We'll get into details of that for you shortly in this bulletin, but not every Muslim family is happily celebrating the Eid. Let's bring an update on a disturbing story where one person has died and another injured in a fire which razed down a 7-room family house on the eve of the Eid celebrations at Kohoho Nima in Accra. Residents say the fire was caused by a gas leakage. Lord Edward Sari is there for us, is joining us right now via phone. Lord, details were a bit scanty yesterday. What more do we know about this particular incident?
Well, man, to start things here, in my interaction with some of the residents and I should say victims of the house, the fire started after a lady who was cooking sent her daughter to, as it were, 10 of the stove, which is regulated by a gas cylinder. They indicated that the lady left, her daughter apparently forgot, and so left it, and then the leakage, and that's what sparked the fire. Now, both the mother and daughter were safe because they were not in the house when it happened, but within minutes, the fire spread across the various rooms, caught fire to about 7 bedrooms, and then a passerby who, a neighbor really, who saw the situation, wanted to help. They indicated that he was very helpful, moving some of their properties. Got caught after he touched a live wire and was investigated on his way as he rushed into the hospital. He passed and was pronounced dead on arrival. Another person was deeply cut in the hand by some of the roofing sheets and other materials which were in the house. Right now, I see several properties in the houses. Very little was salvaged, and you see that you see clothes owned by some of the women. You're talking about high quality material, some of these material that, you know, in a day like this, they want to put it on and all that. Another Alaji tells me that he had just bought his beer from yesterday and he was going to put it on today, but everything is up in flames now, and instead of celebration and rejoicing, they are counting their losses here in the house, Marina.
Right then, Lord, rather unfortunate, but thank you very much for those details. That's my colleague, Lord Edward Sari. Now, away from that to the subject which has pretty much dominated all of the messaging which has come through today's Eid celebration, where a silent crisis is spreading like wildfire. The rampant abuse of Red 225, a powerful painkiller turned street drug. Once prescribed for severe pain, it has now become a cheap escape for struggling youth, trapping them in a cycle of addiction. Godwin Asidiba reports.
A silent epidemic is taking hold in Ghana, one that is numbing the future of the nation. The abuse of Reg 225, a powerful painkiller originally meant for severe medical conditions, has spiraled into a full-blown addiction crisis, gripping young people in its deadly embrace. For many, Reg 225 is more than just a drug. It is an escape from the harsh realities of life. In communities where unemployment, poverty and despair are daily battles, the drug offers a temporary high, a brief moment of detachment from pain and hopelessness. But the cost is devastating. A stroll through Ghana's ghettos paints a haunting picture. Young men and women, once filled with potential, now stand motionless for hours, a living testament of the drug's power. Families watch helplessly as their children slip into a cycle of addiction, unable to break free. Experts warn that Reg 225 was never meant for recreational use. When abused, it can lead to respiratory failure, heart complications, severe mental disorders, and even death. Health professionals are already seeing an increase in emergency cases linked to the drug, stretching an already burdened healthcare system.
In recent years, studies have highlighted a tramadol crisis in the sub-region, characterized by an alarming use of drug among the youthful population, often linked to physical, psychological, and economic hardship.
Beyond the health implications, the addiction crisis is tearing apart communities. The desperate need for the drug pushes users into crime, fueling theft, violence, and other illegal activities. The government cannot afford to look away. Authorities are tightening regulations in the sale and distribution of Red 225. The Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment has pledged to take action.
It is scary. We cannot sit aloof, we cannot sit idle. This is not business as usual, because the basic survival of this country is endangered with young people abusing drugs. And because drugs are expensive, if they don't have the money to buy, they must find the money to buy. The human resource of every country is the most important resource, and the youth of this country is our biggest resource. That is why, as a ministry, we've taken on the challenge to address this canker head on.
We must block the channel to which this deception keeps getting in the minds of our youth. It's simply about over-impression.
But will this be enough? Ghana stands at a crossroads. Without swift and decisive action, an entire generation risks being swallowed by addiction. The time to act is now. Godwin Asidiba, TV3.
And that's a report put together by my colleague Gordon Asidiba. Let's speak to Dr. Dennis Awuti. He's the Executive Secretary of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. Key players with respect to all of this, really. Doc, I appreciate that you could speak to us. A real challenge we have on our hands with respect to the abuse of this drug. What is your own understanding of the challenge, even before we begin to try and find a solution to this?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers and listeners all around the globe. I think that, like every Ghanaian, it's worrying, and the fact that these medicines or these drugs are not manufactured in the country but brought in, and the fact that they are not approved for use in healthcare in Ghana. It only means that they come through illegal or unapproved routes or smuggled in through approved routes. So if we are able to together stop the flow into the country, then we will be able to start making some headway. That will be my preliminary comment.
You've identified one of the big problems, which is how it manages to get itself into the country. There is also the concern of how easily accessible it is after it gets into the country to these young people. Will people be wrong if they want to push the blame on pharmacists or over-the-counter persons who sell drugs as being some of the persons who should be looked at with respect to how accessible this is? Because the argument being made is that you sell these drugs to these unsuspecting young people and aid in the abuse that we're seeing.
I think they may be right in a sense, because as long as there's a documented proof to show that some pharmacies sell this drug, then anyone who makes that assertion will be right in doing so. But that is only part of the problem. You see, the way we run healthcare in Ghana, especially direct-to-patient care, is something that has to be looked at. In Ghana, for instance, a businessman or investor who has money can engage a young pharmacist, and that young pharmacist can, as a professional healthcare provider, help set up the pharmacy. And then the person can do away with the healthcare professional and then run the pharmacy as a business without the input of the pharmacy, or the pharmacist. And that is a big challenge. And so if we want to make headway and ensure that community retail pharmacists are healthcare providers, primary healthcare providers, there will be a need to really look at the law in itself, making sure that anyone who sets up a retail pharmacy to offer direct-to-patient care is a pharmacist. And so that person then becomes liable and responsible for any unethical, unapproved, or unprofessional service that is provided there. But as long as there is a proprietor who's a businessman, an investor who has money, and make promises to a young pharmacist, bring the pharmacist, open the facility, and then finds a way to get rid of the pharmacist, all the person needs to do is to go to the pharmacy council and say that this pharmacist is no longer working for me, and the pharmacy council will get a new pharmacist to replace him. It takes some time, and sometimes they hardly close the facility.
Right.
And so these are a lot of issues that are happening in the sector. I think that coming to the fore as this issue has, I think there's a need to relook at how we license healthcare providers or provision, especially those who offer direct-to-patient care. You can leave the wholesale distribution to the businesses to run as long as they have a pharmacist to help them. But to offer direct-to-patient, I honestly think that we should relook at the law and reserve that to only pharmacists so that can be done. It can be held responsible, where your license can be withdrawn and you can even be barred or banned from practice as a pharmacist if you are found liable.
Right. It's important to make this point as well with respect to persons who should be responsible for selling these drugs and all of that. But there's this other concern about whether or not what we're seeing right now on our hands is likable to a cartel of some sort. Because when you walk to the pharmacies, these drugs are not openly seen or visibly on the shelves, but persons go into the shops and yet they're able to get these medications as well. Should we be seeing a lot more effort in trying to clamp down on what appears to be a cartel of some sort, even as the suggestion of a relook at the law also kicks in?
I think so. You're absolutely right. You see, there are two supply chains that are in country. You have the legal supply chain, where the approved medicines, where the medicines that are licensed for use in Ghana, the licenses that are registered for use and are on the official medicines formulary or medicines list. And those are the ones that you can go to a regular wholesale supplier, send that in your requisition list, get them, and then pay for them, and then it's transported to your facility and you store them appropriately. And when the FDA and the Pharmacy Council comes round and they come to inspect your procurement processes, they are able to get that list and ensure that the medicines you purchase for retailing or for healthcare provision are the legal ones that we have in the country. And there is the other ones that we may ascribe to the so-called cartel, and which is the illegal supply chain. Those ones, you don't get them from the regular supply network or chain.
Right.
So that is something that will need some investigation, undercover work, to be able to follow through. So, for instance, you insist on the invoice and then insist there is all that there is supposed to be on a proper invoice, and you follow the chain and follow through, so that along the supply chain you are able, as a cartel, you are able to then trace to the source. But through the legal supply chain, it may be very difficult. So there is a need for some undercover work to be able to, from the point of sale, that you can trace it through up the illegal supply chain to the very source.
Right. Doc, just final question with respect to how we can, as ordinary Ghanaians, help in dealing with this particular challenge. What does an ordinary Ghanaian do when they find out that a pharmacy near them, an over-the-counter licensing shop near them, is engaged in the sale of these sorts of drugs? What can they do? Who can they call to help begin to stem the tide against this particular fight?
I think since they are products registered or regulated by the Food and Drugs Authority, they will be the first point of call or point of call and a point of contact. So that is important. And that is on all the social media handles. They have a website where you can easily report. So that is important. But for someone who is unable to access these platforms, your first port of call is the nearest police station. Right. The nearest police station. The nearest police station. The nearest police station. And that is important. Then all the other things will fall into place afterwards. And make sure you follow through, you follow up, and ensure that at least the report you make, some attention is given to it. There are others that I've had reports of them myself. The itinerant drug peddlers who go around, some are selling materials or some herbal medicines in their bags, and those people move from place to place. So if you find any of them doing such a thing, as quickly as possible, you can't affect that any arrest, because the citizens' arrest is not encouraged in such circumstances. So again, the nearest police station, I think that is something that everybody should be aware of. So if once that is being done and we are publicizing and we are, I joined the say no to stop red. Red means stop. I joined the launch myself last week, and I think that it's something that we should all get involved, and so that we can rid our country and our youth of the menace of drug use and drug abuse.
Doc, thank you very much for speaking to us. That's Dr. Dennis Senawiti. He's the General Secretary of the Pharmaceutical Society, Executive Secretary, I should say, of the Pharmaceutical Society, speaking to us this afternoon. Well, the Deputy Greater Accra Regional Commander for NACOC, Rees Hakim Mudro, says efforts are underway to educate students about the dangers of substance abuse with a focus on public schools. Speaking on the big issues, he says that schools have been more accessible through counselors and SHEP coordinators. However, private schools pose a challenge due to strict academic schedules. Some private institutions, we get the indication, have collaborated through organizations like the Ghana Private Association of Private Schools. But let's take a listen to him and what he's been saying.
Studies will tell you that between the ages of 15 to 60 years, people are already using these substances. Drug abuse is no respecter of status. We have people, white-collar job workers, blue-collar job workers, laborers. It cuts across. Nobody wants to be addicted to a substance, but drug abuse or the progression is like a slippery slope. So you go in there, and before you realize, you're already in it. We are currently sensitizing schools in Ghana West. So we are going to all basic schools in Ghana West, from Kotoku, Media, Mayera, even Wednesday we are going back. We do private, but now we are doing for the public, because the private sometimes, that's one of the challenges. They will tell you they run a strict academic calendar, so giving you slot is a bit difficult. But there are some of them that through NAPS and NACOC, we are able to, Ghana National Association of Private School, NAPS, we are able to do some of these. I know there's a private man running his or her business. It's up to him to give you Ghana Education Service will give you the letter. You take to the mistress or the principal, then the person tells you, you will hear from me. You give them the calls, you follow up. Yes, we'll get back to you. We have a tight academic calendar. But for the public schools, we are able, through the SHEP coordinators and the school counselors, we are able to get easy access. So for now, in Ghana West, we are doing schools there. And just last quarter of last year, we were at Okankwe, that's the Achimota area, Okankwe North, Achimota area. We sensitized all the schools, both private, public, secondary, and junior high school. And when it comes to the agencies you mentioned, if you look at our board, all these agencies.
the caution continues to be that substance abuse is not going to help any one of us, and so as much as possible, be a brother's keeper and help ensure they do not abuse Red 225 amongst many others. We're going for our very first break here on the 8th edition of News Central. When we return, we'll hear from the new DVLA boss who's been talking plans plus how to clear debts owed by the company. Stay with us. Welcome back, and let's bring you some more stories now. Where the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, says it is likely to implement the soon-to-be-introduced road toll system. CEO Julius Corte says the authority will be able to use the new system to clamp down on cars imported into the country without the payment of the necessary duties. He's been speaking to Kemeni Amano on hot issues.
The new road-ready system coming. Road toll system coming. It is highly possible DVLA will not be responsible for road toll. Highly possible. Yes. Highly possible. Now we are bringing a system that will communicate with a number plate, with a number, and the aluminium plates cannot communicate with that system. So it is highly possible all number plates will be changed to a plastic one with a chip in it that will communicate with the road toll system.
Okay.
Now, if you pass and the toll system is not able to communicate with your car number, it means that your car is not in our database.
Yeah, but how are you going to trace such a person? Because there will be no human intervention. So if I pass and your system is still not able to read it,
that number plates out.
And then you now have to find us.
Yes.
Find whoever is driving.
I'm telling you that it will reduce, if it's not kept totally, to reduce the number of Togo cars we have in the system. Because I'm paying duty, you are not paying duty. And we are cheating the system. And we are there to make sure no one cheats the system. Okay? And the boys will not have access to put the chip in the new one we are bringing. So if you bring a Togo car in now, you will not be able to register it. I'll just advise anyone, get to the DVA, get to the custom office and pay duty, and you are free to run your car, drive your car in Ghana.
I see.
Well, the DVLA, as we know it, is currently reeling under 300 million cedi and $150 million debt. Mr. Kote explains how he intends to change the fortunes of the authority and leave a lasting legacy.
To leave a DVLA you will be proud of. Our president has promised to reset and build the Ghana we want. I want to build the DVLA you and I want. The DVLA where you can come, have your operations, even have your registration and everything online before getting there. Within 15 minutes, you are done, you are gone. I want to use technology as a point to solve a lot of problems in DVLA. So my two deputies and I, we are all working together to use technology to solve our daily problems in DVLA. Now you asked about something again, which is...
yes, indeed. I did ask also, for those who have complaints.
When I got into DVLA, we had only one telephone.
Huh?
Only one telephone for calls. For calls.
Which office?
DVLA,
the head office?
DVLA head office. We have only one telephone for calls. Now, there is a limit to which I can sign when it comes to contracts. I've asked people to have... We are going to implement a complaint center where you have any issue, people overcharge, and it's from our staff, or these boys, when we start with them and they overcharge, you complain to us, we'll make the numbers available, we fit into the telcos to meet them already. So they create short codes for us for the complaints, and we pay for the complaints. Now we are also going to have a call center, and I'm putting about 15 people there, a very state-of-the-art call center with PCs and everything in it. You call them, you seek for service, you want something, you want to find out about charges, everything is available for them to go ahead with it.
Away from the DVLA, and residents of Afransie in the Shama municipality are urging the government to connect them to the national electricity grid, as years without electricity push the youth to flee to urban centers. A report by Stephen Kujo.
As night falls across homes, electricity sparks up life at night with brisk night economic activity and students studying under bright bulbs in cities. But in Afransie, darkness is a way of life. Afransie, a farming community under Bepos electoral area within the Shama municipality, a major concern for residents is absence of electricity. The community falls silent with no hum of refrigerator, no bars of ceiling fans. With no electricity, residents journey to Bepos, a nearby community, just to watch television or charge their phones. A once functional solar-powered street light that brought temporary relief has since broken down.
The light in Hensi, at this
because there is no electricity in our community, the youth are forced to travel to Bepos just to watch television. They return home at odd hours. This situation leaves parents in a constant fear. The absence of electricity is very worrying.
Students are also impacted. Sandra, a mother, laments that her 15-year-old daughter is forced to study with a torchlight.
My child relies on torch to study, and when she doesn't return home early from school, she misses her study time. I worry that this might affect her eyesight. The lack of electricity in our community makes life very difficult.
Beyond electricity, Afransie faces a severe water crisis. The only borehole in the village has not been functioning for months.
With the borehole not working now, this is the stream or the only source of drinking water for the people of Afransie. It is not really a sight good to behold.
The assembly member for the community laments the long-term neglect of residents of Afransie.
So the last time I went to electricity company and I was just asking them their procedures for extension, because it's not just only this community. We have a lot of communities in my electoral area, of which there is a lot of burden of
Afransie struggles highlight the widening gap between urban development and rural neglect, as residents urgently plea for intervention. For TV3 News, Stephen Kujo, Afransie.
And quite challenging this present day and age, and yet you have elsewhere wires or cables brought in being smelted and turned into aluminium poles, amongst many other things. Let's focus on some other matters, where public libraries in Ghana are noted as places of learning and book lending. However, in an era where Ghana's oral history is gradually disappearing, these sanctuaries hold the key to preserving its rich historical and cultural heritage. On today's episode of our Ghana Man series, Samuel Yeboah Adams explores the role of public libraries in preserving Ghana's rich cultural and historical heritage. Public libraries serve as guardians of the past and bridges to the future. They preserve the heart and soul of the country and its people by keeping historical records that may be in extinction. The George Padmore Research Library and the Accra Central Libraries are examples of these sanctuaries where significant historical documents live.
If you come to the George Padmore Library on African Affairs, for example, we have books on how Greater Accra started. The settlement of Accra, the first building in Osu is available. We have how Labadi also started. All the great communities in Accra, how they started, we have books on them. We also have books on all the history activities of the country, the independence of Ghana, even before the independence of Ghana. We have books as far back as 1600s, 1800s. We also have all the newspapers, the daily newspapers of the country, ranging back as far back as 1950.
Unfortunately, only academic researchers visit these public libraries.
If you go to the Ghana Library app, we have majority of this information also available to them online, that they can easily go and have access to them. And also all our branch libraries across the country, even the Accra Central Library, the children's libraries in the country, they are also for free. And we have been organizing activities in the libraries like the reading clubs. We also have online courses made available to the Gen Zs, as you call them, which they are making benefit out of these particular programs.
But why is a younger generation shying away from libraries?
Now everything is technology, and you can easily go to, when I was even coming here, I used Google Map. You can easily go to Google and be like Ghana's history, and everything will just pop up for you to read. That's why I think people don't normally come here.
They have to be given a lot of I wouldn't say a lot of money, but in a sense, a way that whenever they want to do something, okay, they'll be supported, you see, in order to get the place more active.
73-year-old Samuel has been visiting the Accra Central Library for more than 5 decades. He feels the need to nourish his mind with knowledge every day and admonishes young people to endeavor to visit public libraries to learn about the history of Ghana.
1973, I started patronizing the library. So when I close from school, I come here to go over my notes that the teacher teaches me and whatnot. So the library is a good instrument for the students to advance their education. They should become, because the most important of all is that they should be fishing out for the makers of civilization, because they have something to tell us, you see. And those things are also in the history.
Many may argue that the public library system is not working, but the acting director of the George Padmore Research Library, Simon Tay, thinks otherwise.
We can still never do away with the physical or public libraries in the country, because they should not forget that they can just go online and have access to some of these books on Amazon and co. But the physical library is a little bit less expensive as compared to, the online information. And also,
There is nothing like system breakdown. If you come to the library 24/7, we have access to books. You can just come in. Even some of the branch libraries are also open on Saturdays. They can just come in.
This is just a reminder that in the pages of a historical record lies within the essence of a nation. So the next time you visit a public library, take a moment to reflect on the role the Ghana Library Authority plays, which is not just lending and receiving books, but also preserving the heritage of Ghana. And away from that, Ghana, formerly known as the Gold Coast, was endowed with numerous national monuments, including forts and castles, rich in history and cultural significance. However, many of these historical sites, which should be thriving tourist attractions and revenue generation assets, are now falling into neglect and disrepair. As part of the Ghana Man series, Stanley Nibleu explores the story of one of such monuments, Fort Sebastian, in the Shamar district of the Western Region.
Started in 1526 in the heart of the coastal community of Shamar by the Portuguese, Fort Sebastian stands as a testament to the magnificence of ancient architecture. As the third oldest fort in the country, it originally served as a deterrent to English sailors interfering in Shamar's trade. However, in 1638, the Dutch seized control of the fort after defeating the Portuguese, leaving it in ruins. Following significant renovations, the Dutch transformed Fort Sebastian into a permanent trade hub where gold and slaves purchased from African traders were the main commodities. In 1872, the British took over the management of the fort. With the abolition of the slave trade, the door of no return was partially covered with concrete. Despite this, artistic impressions on the walls of the female dungeon continue to stir deep emotions among visitors. The monument also houses the remains of Africa's first philosopher, Dr. Anton Wilhelm Amu, a native of Nzimaland. Fort Sebastian is under the custody of the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board, but is managed by the local community as a tourist site. Unfortunately, visitor numbers remain low and the facility is steadily deteriorating. Kweku Busumtwi, a tour guide at Fort Sebastian, highlights the challenge of maintaining the site without adequate financial and institutional support.
If major renovations had been carried out, the fort would have attracted many tourists from far and near. However, its current state is not appealing enough to generate adequate revenue.
Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Abeku Agri Santana, has noted that Fort Sebastian is not officially licensed as a tourist site, emphasizing that all sites with tourism potential must secure proper accreditation.
Every tourist site and attraction per the regulation LI 2393 must be licensed by Ghana Tourism Authority. Some of the sites and attractions are in the ownership of traditional authority, local assembly, museums and monuments board, and private individuals. Before we license every tourist site and attraction, we ensure that the site guide or the operator at least have a basic knowledge in site guiding or visitor attraction management. They have a knowledge about it. Unfortunately, because these sites and attractions were built by the early Europeans and have been abandoned, communities have taken ownership.
He urged traditional authorities to collaborate with the GTA to develop and preserve historical sites effectively. Additionally, he stressed the importance of private sector participation in tourism development.
The laws are there, but the question is, why is it that we have not maintained, we have not rehabilitated, we have not preserved these sites and attractions? That is a question you and I need to ask and ask for the answers. It's being like that from 15, which is the early 16th century up to today. We have not maintained the site and attraction. Even roads and pathways leading to the site and attractions have not been developed. But it is a collective responsibility from the traditional authority, local investors, not only government.
Like Fort Sebastian, other national monuments, including Fort Anthony in Axim, Usher Fort, and Jamestown Lighthouse in Accra are in dire need of restoration and protection. These sites are not just relics of the past. They hold immense potential for cultural preservation, tourism, and economic growth. It is imperative for the government, traditional authorities, corporate bodies, and the general public to rally together to restore and promote these historical treasures. Investing in the preservation of Ghana's heritage is an investment in the country's identity, tourism industry, and future generations. The time to act is now, before these priceless landmarks are lost forever. Stanley Nibleu, TV3 News, Shama, Western Region.
And that's our bulletin for you today, which came to you from our studios here on the John Hammond Street. From all of us here at TV3, we say Eid Mubarak to you. And my outfit today by Berima Park Collections. So many thanks to him for that as well. The afternoon show, Eid Edition, is next on your television. Please do stay tuned.